Welcome to the National Institute of Health and Care Research Mentoring Programme and this professional development series. I'm Julie Haddock-Millar and I support with the training and development and evaluation of the mentoring programme. In this session, we're going to focus on mentoring and imposter syndrome. I'm going to take you through aspects to consider when mentoring, when a mentee or a colleague might express or show signs of imposter syndrome. I'll also take you through the resources and the topic guides and some reflective questions with the what next. So starting with imposter syndrome and what is it? This slide sets out what we might consider to be imposter syndrome. Often it's described as a fear, the feeling of being a fraud or found out, for example. We sometimes downplay our accomplishments and is more prevalent in certain groups of people as demonstrated by the research on imposter syndrome. It can also manifest very early on in life, at school or at college. There are both internal and external aspects to imposter syndrome, and here we see internal such as personality traits, or external such as home environment, schooling, careers, certain professions and networks. But there are a range of strategies that have been identified, ranging from validation to mentoring to psychosocial support that can help with tackling imposter syndrome. Key characteristics, we provided a list here on this slide, just to name a couple. Self-doubt, negative self-talk can be present in imposter syndrome. Now, we might consider imposter syndrome as a spectrum. I'm demonstrating this on this slide. So what we see on the far left-hand side is where we might feel imposter syndrome most, for example, when we're new to role or when we've experienced rapid role expansion, and we might feel quite timid or quite concerned, that feeling of wanting to hide, which we see in the top left-hand side. However, there might be many situations where we feel that very much we're acting in our comfort zone. We feel we can take on any challenge, demonstrated on the top right-hand side. We're very experienced and therefore we have that competence and confidence demonstrated on the bottom right-hand side. So we tend to experience imposter syndrome in particular contexts, but not all aspects of life. So we might hear, I'm not good enough. I won't live up to expectations, and what if I fail? And these questions might come up in mentoring conversations. We might see imposter syndrome as a cycle. So sometimes it might start as a feeling, anxiety, fear, emptiness. Then that shifts to a thought, the I'm not good enough, I don't belong. And that can then lead to behaviour. So avoidance, for example, or inaction, procrastination. And we see this very much as a cycle where we're shifting around from one stage to another. Now, what I'd like to do is to show you and demonstrate a tool that you might use in your mentoring conversations between a mentor and a mentee. And this is where we might explore the idea of distortion. And this is where, in certain contexts, we might have a distorted view of ourselves or a situation. So in any given situation, we might select data, interpret it, and make meaning from it. We might amplify a situation, sometimes the very smallest thing. And in doing so, we make judgments about ourselves and about others. So a really useful tool that we can use in our mentoring practice is called the ladder of inference. And it can be used not just in mentoring, but a whole variety of contexts to raise self-awareness, question assumptions, and really finding support through conversation with a data-based evidence approach. So just to show you what this looks like. So here we see at the bottom of the ladder a pool of data that we can draw from. We can make observations, we select data, we make meaning, assumptions, we draw conclusions based on the assumptions, we then develop beliefs, and we take action based on our beliefs. Now, in the context that we saw in the previous slide, the top left-hand side, bottom left-hand side, we might be new to role, new to context, new to environment. This might have particular meaning for us as we can move from observations to beliefs and actions within seconds in any given scenario. What I wanted to do was just describe a scenario for you, a very common one, particularly in academia or research, where we're required to present research. There's often a lot of public speaking involved. And so we see here this visual on the left-hand side, where public speaking, there might be an audience, a large audience in some cases. And we might have noticed in that pool of data of the audience that an audience member might have frowned, another audience member was watching something on the phone. And we select that data from all of the audience and we make meaning from it. And the meaning might be the audience member is not enjoying my presentation, for example, or disagrees with the presentation. The whole audience must think my presentation is poor. We then jump to I'm terrible at public speaking, and then the behaviour is that we try and avoid public speaking. Now here, of course, I'm providing an extreme example to contextualise the tool and a particular context, but this can happen in scenarios, and we've seen, experienced and had this in mentoring practice. So how do we use the tool? So really helpful in mentoring conversations to talk through context, talk through specific scenarios, and to slow down the process and examine how we might have climbed the ladder. So the self-reflection, so what data did we choose? What data did we reject? What assumptions did we make? What biases may have influenced that process? And we can reflect on the thought processes, we can examine the assumptions that we've made, which can really lead to deeper understanding of ourselves and our interaction with others, and really develop that self-insight. So a really helpful, useful tool. We can also then begin to replace negative thoughts with different thoughts. Say, for example, I'm not good at anything. So challenging that, instead asking ourselves to come up with 3 things that we are good at. I need to work harder than everyone to achieve the same success. We might convert that to a strength, which is I have a good work ethic, for example. Many people struggle with imposter feelings because they don't feel they belong. So finding a social and professional group where you belong can be really helpful, where you might feel comfortable and develop that competence and confidence, for example. Now, mentoring can be really helpful in the context of imposter syndrome, and mentors adopt a variety of roles. We do run a session which is called The Roles of the Mentor, and I'd suggest you watch that session, and if you're able to attend any of the sessions, we'd really encourage you to do so, of course. And in that session, we talk about each of the 8 most frequently cited roles in mentoring, including professional friend, sounding board, reflector, challenger, confidant, performance coach, guide and role model. Now, all of these can be very helpful when adopting any of these roles in the context of imposter syndrome, particularly the reflector and the sounding board, reflecting back what you see and hear as a mentor to the mentee, acting as a sounding board for mentees as well. I've mentioned about networks and how that's incredibly important in the context of imposter syndrome, finding the place that you belong. But it's also surrounding yourself with that support network. And here we see lots of different roles that might support you through life and also in the workplace. Top there, we see the role of the mentor. Now, the mentor might adopt a variety of roles, which we see here. But of course, a mentor can't be everything to one person. So as a mentee, you might want to think about those around you who provide support to you, but also the reciprocal nature of who you provide support to. So the giving and receiving of support, that community of supporters that is so helpful. So why is our network important? Really just a summary slide here with some key bullet points: encouraging, keeping us informed, the sounding board that I've mentioned, expanding career opportunities, and really helping us to navigate dynamics in relation to careers and life. So just to summarise in terms of what next and a few reflective questions to take away. How can mentoring support people who experience imposter syndrome? As a mentor, how can you support your mentee who may experience imposter syndrome? And as a mentee, how can you maximise the learning experience with your mentor? And if this is one of the themes, how do you go about addressing that in your mentoring relationship? We have some key resources. We have an online topic guide, which has links to further reading. And these are some examples of the further reading that we've linked in that topic guide. We always provide the email, of course, to the support team for the mentoring programme that you're welcome to get in touch with if you have any questions at all. Thank you so much for listening.